This video is sponsored by Rizom Lab, the creators of my unwrapping software of choice, Rizom UV. During the upload month of this video, my viewers can enjoy a 20% discount on Rizom UV by going to rizomlab.com and using the code DIGITALMEAT at the checkout. I will also be giving away 10 free licenses for Rizom UV during this month, so make sure you're following me on Facebook and keep an eye out for those giveaway posts. Hey guys, it's Sam for Digital Meat again, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the spring update for Rizom UV 2020. So let's just jump straight in. Here I've got my scooter. You'll recognise it from an earlier Rizom UV tutorial, and I'm going to be using this to show you a few things. So I'm just going to grab my subdivided parts and I'm going to scooch this over to Rizom UV using the Rizom bridge for C4D. And here we go, and there's my object. It's in here, and let's just hit the P button, get everything packed in some sort of way. There we go. Okay, the first thing that I want to go over very quickly is the fact that, and I don't think this is a new addition to this update, I think it was put in before, but certainly since my last video, you can now grab the middle of the UI and actually resize these windows. So if you want a little bit more space to work in here, you can do whatever you want to do, and you can actually scooch this over now. So that's a very welcome addition. So I just wanted to mention that very quickly. So let's talk about the new features and the new stuff involved in the spring update. Okay, first of all, we got texel density. Now you'll notice up here the icons have been updated. Much like it used to be, you can still pick a texel density from an island, and you can set a texel density, or you can apply uniformity to all your islands. But what's new here is that texel density is now one global setting. So texel density in the packing panel, which you can see here, is actually linked to the layout texel density here by default. You still have the option of unlinking them by pressing the texel density button in the packing panel, and it will give you a little warning. It will basically tell you that if auto fit is enabled, that it will still rescale the island. So that's new in this version as well. Some extra warnings, so you can just say OK to that, and then you'll get this custom button. So you can actually press the custom button and then choose your, or even pick. You've even got a picker here, or choose a numerical value. So that's something new, that these settings have slightly changed there. Something else that's new is select element. Now, for those of you that are 3ds Max users, you'll be familiar with this. When you select an object, you can either select points, edges, or polygons, and you also get the option of selecting an element. Basically what that means is sort of like a closed surface that might be within an object, but it's kind of an element within itself. In Cinema 4D, this can be shown by something similar. If we select this part here and I go into polygon mode and I choose, let's have a look, let's actually select the object itself. So we've got the teal shell here, and if I select a polygon on the back here like this, we can go up to select and select connected, and it will select all the parts of this object, this teal shell, that are a closed shell, which is all of this. So you can see here it's left behind the front section because it's not actually part of this sort of like closed surface. So that's basically what that means from a Cinema 4D point of view, and in Rizom UV now that is an option. So if I go and select a polygon here, you can go up to the select menu, so you can just scroll this down, and there is this button now, and it's called select elements, and if I click that, it will select everything that's involved in that closed shell. You don't have to press this button, you can use the shortcut. So if I select this and middle mouse click, double middle mouse click, it will select that shell as well. You can also do it in this view. So if I selected this polygon and then double clicked middle mouse button, it will select everything within that element. Another new feature of this update is the select flipped option. Now you might have an import that looks something like this. I'm sure we've all come across this before, where parts of the model look black and your islands look black here. And the reason for that is you've got backwards facing UV polygons. The normals are facing in the wrong direction. Now this could be the result of a bad import or an already existing unwrap, which is a bad unwrap. Now I could, select these flipped ones and go through and manually flip them, but that might be slightly harder when you've got lots of small pieces like this and they might be flipped or whatever. Well, now in Rizom UV you now have a select flipped button. Rizom UV can actually detect these flipped islands and polygons, and that's this button up here. So we can just hit that and it selects everything that's facing the wrong direction. And then if we look down in the align straighter menu here, we've got this flip menu, and you can choose to flip these round. Now these different options relate to how you want to flip them. So you can flip them up and down, and you can flip them horizontally as well. And you can also choose what axis they flip on. So if I choose here, it takes the extremity to the left and uses that as a pivot, and if I go back you can do it in the center. So now these backwards facing islands are facing the right way now, and then you can do a repack and everything's good, they're faced the right way. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is distribute space in Rizom UV, and to demonstrate this I've just got this pile of objects here. I did a dynamic simulation and just had these fall on top of each other, these objects. So I'm going to select these objects and boot them out to Rizom. And in they've come with no UV. So I'm going to select this one here, and I'm just going to double click on this edge, and that will select that, and I'm going to unselect this edge. You'll see why in a minute. I'm going to do the same down here and just select this edge, and then we're going to need a cut near the front somewhere, just like that. And because all of these objects are very similar in terms of geometry, if not the same, I can go up here and select the clone selection across similar islands, and that's working its magic, and it's selected the same cuts on all these objects. And now I can just hit C, and then U, unwraps them, and then P. So they've all been packed. Let's frame this, and this is what we get. So let's have a look at this distribute space. Now this is something I'm very, very excited about, and I can see this fast becoming a favourite of mine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into island mode. I'm going to select all of these like this, and I'm going to go into the transform mode as well, and I'm just going to scooch these around like this so they're all kind of facing in a similar direction like this. Now what I can do actually is I'm gonna choose most of these actually. In fact, let's choose all of them. Let's just select everything, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the align tool and boot them all to the left, and then I'm going to align them all to the top as well, so they're kind of laid on top of each other. And let's select them all again, and I'm just going to move them into this corner like this. Okay, so let's talk about distribute space. You'll see that under the align tools or options here, we've now got this distribute menu, and this is something that I in the past thought that the align thing was going to do when I first saw it, and it wasn't what I expected. But this distribute space options now is exactly what I was expecting actually. So if I grab all of these like this and then click this button, which is distribute space horizontally, it actually distributes all of these things in a nice long line, and you can see that they've actually gone outside the UV space now. But this is what this does, and you can see actually if we zoom in that they're very close together. In fact, they're right on top of each other. So what I'm going to do is actually deselect these first, let's see, 3, 6, 7 maybe. Yep, and I'm going to do what I did a minute ago, which is align to the left, and I'm just going to drag this down here out of the way so I can demonstrate with this light up here exactly what this tool does. So okay, we've distributed space horizontally. So what if I grab this and then press it again. Nothing's going to happen because it's already been distributed. But it evaluates the space between one extremity to another. And to demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is grab this end island and shift it across here. And then select all of these again and hit distribute horizontally. And it'll evaluate the space between this edge and distribute accordingly. And now we've got some space in between these objects. I'm just going to select these again and align them to the left so they're all on top of each other again. Now, the way I distributed this horizontally by pressing this is it evaluates its average, which is what this button is here. Distribute available space mode, distribute evenly the available space between selected islands, items even. So that's exactly what it's doing, but you can actually distribute based on pixels as well. So if I was to grab this and say, right, let's choose pixels, and then we get a spinner and a number field, I can say, okay, well, I want them to be distributed with 20 pixels between these objects. And now when I hit distribute horizontally, it will make sure that there's always 20 pixels between these islands. And obviously, if I hit 40 and do the same thing again, it's going to double the space between these. Oh, okay, it didn't. Oh, maybe that's because it's within the UV space. Maybe it evaluates that as well. Let's have a look. Oh, it's actually gone back to 20. That's why I didn't hit enter. That's why it wasn't being evaluated. So let's try that again. Let's go in here. Let's do this. There we go. Yeah, it's because I didn't hit enter on that properly. So that's what that does. Super useful. I can see that becoming a fast favourite of mine. Let's distribute the average again, and let's move this island back in to the UV space, select all of them and distribute. Perfect. Excellent. Good stuff. Okay, this also works vertically as well, so you can distribute space vertically. So it's basically the same thing. If you add a line of stuff, you can make sure that they work vertically as well. You can even distribute horizontally, but with the alignment of each object to the left, so they kind of float left. Or you can have them distribute the objects centrally or to the right. So it's kind of alignment within the distribute tool, which is great. Something else I should mention, you can distribute an average or by pixels that you dictate, or this real space unit. And what that means is basically the UV space is 0 to 1, and this value will be a fraction of this number down the bottom. That's all it means. Something else of note as well, the distribute tool works with polygons, edges and vertices as well. So if I wanted to distribute vertices of an island in a very particular way, I could do, and I could use these settings to do that as well. Okay, moving on. We've also got a new constraint now. I'm sure you're all familiar with the regular constraints, which are these. You can constrain edges and all that kind of stuff, but we've now got these new constraints, which are, they're a hinge constraint. So I'm going to go into polygon mode, point mode, and you can see that as soon as I've done that, these constraints are opened up to us. What I might do actually is warp our shapes a little bit, just so I can show you the tool in action. So let's stretch these out, and let's go back to point mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a bunch of points here, and I'm actually going to hinge constrain them. Now, what this tool actually does is it does constrain these points, but it uses these points to inform how you're either going to unwrap the rest of the island or optimize the rest of the island. And it uses these points as a reference. So it's almost like this is an anchor, and it performs its optimize function around these constrained points. So if I go into the optimize brush and then start optimizing the rest of the model, it optimizes it within the context of these pinned, within the context of these constrained points. That's exactly what it means. And if I hit U there, it'll unfold it, but it'll unfold it around this stuff. So let's go back to this and actually reconstrain these as well. And what I can do is I can actually perform an unwrap on this. In fact, let's use the unwrap. So again, it unwraps it with these pinned points as a reference. That's what the Hinge tool does. So that could be super useful if there's a part of an island that you think is perfect, but the rest of it is kind of messed up and a bit stretched. You can pin those points that you want to keep, and it won't be so stringent. It kind of it'll unfold or optimize the rest of the island with those things as a reference point, and it kind of works around those points that you've constrained. It you know, the transition isn't so harsh, so that's definitely worth looking at. Something else that's new to this update is we've got an update to autosave and the debug log. So if we go up to edit and we can go into the preferences dialog, here you'll see now that we've got an autosave function, so you can enable this by clicking this on. And you can also determine where you want these autosaves to go, so you can actually set a path here. So if I click this, you can, you know, set a path anywhere you like. There is a default place, and I think it's in app data somewhere, but again, like I said, it doesn't matter. You can set your own path. You can also set the time interval that Rizom UV auto saves, and you can give a maximum file count as well. So when this hits the max, it will start overwriting the old files, I think, as far as I'm aware. And then we can come down to the debug log. We can write the command log now, so you can check that on. And you can also, if this is checked on, you can also write an OpenGL log, which is to do your graphics drivers. So once you click that on, a restart will be needed, but it means that you can create a log based on your drivers, your graphics drivers. Something else to note as well, if we look here, we've got some FBX enhancements as well now. So we can choose the FBX compatibility version, and we've got a few extra options here as well. So we can order UV sets by their names, we can enable partial UV sets, and we can also delete unused UV sets. So if you've got a UV set there but nothing's actually been flattened, Rizom will automatically delete those sets. Okay, let's close this down. Something else to note as well, I'm just actually going to choose these and select these points and unpin them. There we go. Raycasting, that's had an improvement as well. Now, in the past, what I've had to do is, if I wanted to select a load of edge, or even better, a load of polygons, I'd select my polygon tool, I'd make a drag selection over something like this, and there's my selection. But if I look underneath, obviously the ray hasn't traveled through the object to select the stuff underneath. So in the past, what I'd have to do, you know, if you wanted to select edges in Max, you'd go, or even Cinema 4D for that matter, you'd go to a view like this and you'd do this, and you'd be able to select all the edges. But the raycasting, it hits geometry and then says, well, we're not going to select anything on the back face. So in the past in Rizom UV, what you'd have done is actually gone into the wireframe mode here, and then selected these edges, and then you can actually select them. But this is now a thing of the past, because you have the option to choose what kind of raycasting you want. So if you go up to edit, beg your pardon, it's actually select, and go down to raycasting. We've got this option now, and you can see the raycasting mode is set to auto. So raycasting mode is, you've got your choices are enabled or auto. As far as I can tell, these are very, very similar, or you can disable it. So what I can do is, if I go back to this view and demonstrate again that if I select these edges underneath won't be selected, I can now go into Raycasting and actually turn Raycasting mode disabled and select these edges, and now these edges are selected as well. This also works for polygons. So now if I select these polygons, the ones underneath will be selected. So that's super useful, and it's probably closer to the functionality that you expect if you're using a 3D program like Cinema 4D or 3ds Max. This kind of behavior is something you'll be familiar with. Okay, so that was just a quick update of the new stuff in the 2020 spring update for Rizom UV. All very good. I really think the distribution tools are going to be absolutely fantastic for laying out clean UVs. That's going to be really, really good. I haven't covered everything, just the major sort of features and stuff. If you do want to see the entire changelog for this update, I will put a link in the description, but that'll take you to this page, and it will list all the fixes and all the little bits and bobs that have been done as well. So I'll put a link for that in the description. Okay guys, I hope you found that helpful, and I'll see you on the next one. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified of new tutorials. You can follow me on social media at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram, and make sure to visit me at digitalmeet.uk where you can vote for upcoming tutorials. Thanks for watching, bye!